Sergeant at Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, Senators, this morning on February 26th, we are so pleased to have Reverend Justin Rhodes of Trinidad Baptist Church in Capitol Heights, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from the 25th District. Please rise for the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you today with grateful hearts, acknowledging your sovereignty over all the affairs of this world. We thank you for the men and women who serve in this Senate and for their commitment to the well-being of our state and its people. Lord, we ask for your wisdom to guide their decisions, that they may seek justice, truth, and the common good in all they do. May they be filled with a spirit of unity, respect, and compassion as they work together to serve the needs of all residents, especially those who are most vulnerable. Grant them discernment in the face of difficult choices and the courage to make decisions that honor you and reflect your love. Help them to be leaders who act with integrity, humility, and a deep sense of responsibility to those they represent. We pray for peace and harmony in their debates and for an unwavering commitment to fairness and the protection of the rights of all people. May their hearts remain open to your guidance, and may they always remember the sacred trust placed in them. Bless their families, their staff, and all those who support their work. We pray for your continued blessing on this state, that it may be a place of prosperity, justice, and peace for all who call it home. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Recognizing the senator from the 25th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It is a true pleasure to introduce to you a valuable community partner in District 25, Reverend Justin Rhodes. Reverend Rhodes is the senior pastor at Trinidad Baptist Church in Capitol Heights, Maryland, where their ministry aim is encapsulated in Matthew 5:16, which states, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Biblical Studies from Washington Bible College and is a two-time graduate of Virginia Union University, having earned a Master in Divinity degree from Samuel Dewitt Proctor School of Theology and an Executive MBA degree from Sidney Lewis School of Business. Reverend Rhodes is a fourth-generation preacher and had no choice when he was called in December of 2019 and elected to succeed his father as the new senior pastor of the Trinidad Baptist Church. It is always a pleasure working with the Trinidad Baptist Church, including their yearly Community Day in June, sneaker giveaways before school, and turkey distributions in November. It truly makes sense why Trinidad Baptist is heralded as the beacon. The vast community work that helps residents expand throughout Prince George's County is definitely a testament to their character. Reverend Rhodes continues to lead his flock overwhelmingly with faith, inspiration, and a sense of community warmth. Mr. President, can you please move to journalize the Reverend's remarks?
Without objection, most certainly, we will journalize the Reverend's invocation this morning and appreciate his presence today. Thank you. Thank you. All right, has everyone recorded their presence today? If so, almost. Well, Chair Budget and Tax, and let us know you're here today, at least physically, even if, right, all of us are, it's spiritually, right. All right, the clerk will take the call. With 45 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. Let's go ahead and start with Coppin. We have a few resolutions today. Let's see, we have Senator from the 40th District from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today here in the chamber is the president of Coppin State University, Dr. Anthony Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins has led this university and its excellence since 2020, just 5 years. He's joined this afternoon by individuals from Coppin State University in the gallery. I'll ask them to stand. Over the last couple of years, under his exceptional leadership, enrollment at Coppin State University has increased by 5% each year. The retention has grown to 75%, which is at a historic high. And applications this year alone, Mr. President, they have 16,000 applications for admission compared to 5,000 this year. So Coppin State University, their mascot is Eagles. So they continue to rise above all and be the leaders that we expect them to be. Colleagues, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Coppin State University. Lastly, Mr. President and colleagues, before I join the president up front, the university will be hosting lunch today at the Banneker Douglas Tubman Museum from 11 o'clock to 1:30. Permission to use the senator's name?
Senator may proceed.
It is with pleasure that I'm not solo in my effort as a champion for Coppin State University. For the first time, we have another graduate. Our very own Senator Shanika Henson is a graduate of Coppin State University, and I ask that she'll join me up front with the president. Thank you, Mr. President.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Coppin State University in recognition of your 125th anniversary, honoring Fannie Jackson Coppin's legacy of academic excellence, empowerment, and community pride. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 26th day of February, 2025.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To President Jenkins and all of our guests from Coppin State University, congratulations on your 125th year. We are so thrilled about the progress that you are making. Thank you, thank you, thank you. President Jenkins also isn't a bad golfer either, so, good to see you. All right, let's see. We've got AKA in the building today. Let's hear from the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. This morning I rise as a proud husband of a lady of Alpha Kappa Alpha. As you can see, I have my annual pink outfit on today. But we're here to recognize this year's Alpha Kappa Alpha Day at the Capitol. Alpha Kappa Alpha has always been at the forefront of social justice. They stand in the gap to empower our communities and act in the best interests of all people through social advocacy and justice. They equip communities with the tools, knowledge, and support to uplift and mobilize their voices to help themselves. As a sisterhood, they work to provide information and representation about African Americans and women of color who serve in leadership in an effort to inspire the next generation of Black women interested in pursuing politics. Alpha Kappa Alpha Day at the Capitol is the Maryland AKA's chapter Collectively Advocacy Day in Annapolis. There are 30 chapters from the North Atlantic region, from Maine to DC, including graduate and undergraduate chapters. This year we have over 600 members registered to attend today, many of whom are seated in the gallery today. So colleagues, please join me in welcoming Prince George's County Council member Ingrid S. Watson, along with Joan Scott, Roe E. Washington, and council member and former delegate Juanica Fisher, who are here with us today in Annapolis to accept our floor resolution. Mr. President, I ask the resolution be read.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
be it hereby known to all, the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the North Atlantic region, in recognition of your outstanding advocacy efforts and significant contributions to the community, continuing the mission to be of service to all mankind. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 26th day of February, 2025.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes and a unanimous Senate celebration, we congratulate AKA for your advocacy efforts and your work here in the state of Maryland. Thank you all so much, and I apologize. And former Senator Dolores Kelly would have killed me to not have the pink and green on today. I feel terrible about it. I send it in absentia. I will apologize to her, but thank you all so much for your incredible efforts. Thank you. Thank you. Recognize the senator from the 22nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today with immense joy and gratitude to introduce someone who means the world to me, my incredible wife, Rohi, who's here for Alpha Kappa Alpha Day. As many of you know, she is not only my greatest supporter, but also a woman of strength, grace, and resilience. An immigrant from the Gambia, she embodies the values of hard work, dedication, and love for family that we hold dear. Through all the demands of public service, she has stood by my side, reminding me every day of the importance of home, love, and togetherness. And today, I am overjoyed to share some even greater news. Our family is growing. We are expecting our second child. Our little girl is going to be a big sister, and we could not be more excited to share this next chapter of our lives together. So to my wife, thank you. I love you. Thank you for your patience and kindness. I love you forever, baby. Thank you.
Oh, well. Well said. It's like Valentine's Day here on the, it's excellent, excellent. Very good. All right, let's do introductions. We have a few introductions. Senator from the Lower Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Mr. President, and friends and colleagues. I asked you to join me. We have very special guests today on the Senate floor and in the Senate gallery. I'll ask them to stand, and I'll begin my introduction with Dr. Khalila Ali, Mama Ali, former wife of the greatest Muhammad Ali. She has visited well over 100 countries in her lifetime and met with over 50 heads of state, taking her anti-bullying message around the world. And if you have ever seen her in action with the students in your districts, it is absolutely incredible the impact that she makes on those students. I've seen her in my district. Yesterday, she was at Potomac High School with the senator from Prince George's County in Oxon Hill, and she was delivering the message in your district, in the senator's district. And I just have to tell you you're probably thinking, why am I making this introduction? There is also a special connection because her celebrity bodyguard is from my district, a student from Stephen Decatur High School, and that is Bubba Almany. And he grew up in Ocean City and a graduate of Stephen Decatur High School, my school, and he is the United States Chairman for Bodyguards Against Bullying. And I also wanted to share with you, when you hear Dr. Ali's message, Mama Ali's message in person, and see her with these students and watch how she connects with these students, it is always a message of kindness and love, etiquette and manners, respect, and she reaches them. I also wanted to share a bit of trivia that she is also an aviator and teaches children how to fly when they're at the right age. So I thought it was really special that she was able to join us today. And I also wanted to recognize her colleagues, Michael Rezick, Jahid Jones, and I also have our intern is joining from Towson University, Nikolai Brody, if you all would stand up. This is part of her entourage, so again, thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Michael Rezick is Dr. Ali's brother, and these are leaders also in the anti-bullying movement. So thank you for sharing the message with us.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, yeah, Senator from District 45, followed by the Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to celebrate someone that is not a stranger to Baltimore City. Sometimes I even call her the mayor of Bel Air Edison. But more importantly, we're joined by Rita Cruz. And Rita Cruz to me is a mentor, she's a mother, and she's also my leader. So colleagues, when I think of Alpha Kappa Alpha Day here today, she celebrates 50 years of service, earning her honor of the Golden Soror of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc. And Ms. Reed, I just say to you, your dedication, your service, and your commitment to sisterhood principles are truly inspiring. Colleagues, if we can give a round of applause to my mother, my leader, my mentor, Ms. Rita Cruz.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for your great work. Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, could those wearing blue corduroy jackets please stand? Mr. President, it is my pleasure and privilege to extend a warm welcome to the young leaders joining us today in the Senate Gallery. The FFA represents the best of our future, young men and women dedicated to agriculture, leadership, and service. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Welcome to the FFA. Thanks for joining us. Senator from Howard and Anne Arundel counties.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the rear gallery, we have a physician from Johns Hopkins Community Physicians, Odenton, a family doctor. Dr. Ariana Martin is joining us to see our legislative process today. I'll ask for a warm Senate welcome to Dr. Martin.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, any further introductions? Any further introductions? Yes, Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We have a doctor of the day today, Dr. Benjamin Goldstein, who is the Medical Director of Palliative Care at GBMC. Welcome.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. All right, any further introductions? If not, let's go ahead and jump in today. So we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We have some bills from the House. This is calendar 7. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 107, Delegate Pruski, Consumer Protection, Automatic Renewals, Finance.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They will be referred to their appropriate standing committees. We have bond initiatives, calendar number 34. Clerk will read the bond initiatives.
Number 1, Senator McCray, Darley Park Community Preservation, Budget and Taxation.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bond initiatives. They will be referred to the Capital Budget Subcommittee. Madam Secretary, if we could ring the bells, and let's do a quorum call before we do third reading calendar here.
Mr. President.
All right. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 45 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We have third reading calendar number 15. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 533, Senator Folden, Public Safety Police Accountability Time Limit for Filing Administrative Charges.
Senate Bill 533 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 533, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to calendar 16. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 23, Senator Bailey, Natural Resources State Boat Act, Auctioneers.
Senate Bill 23 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 23, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 50, Senator Simon Nair, Local Government, Annapolis and Anne Arundel County Conference and Visitor Bureau Designation.
Senate Bill 50 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 50, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 73, Senator Simonaire, Chesapeake Conservation Corps Program renaming.
Senate Bill 73 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 73, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 85, Senator Simonaire, Braille Flag Memorial Act of 2025.
Senate Bill 85 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 85, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 88, Senator Kagan, Election Law, Municipal Elections, Authority of State Administrator, Elections, and Use of State Ballots. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 88 is on third reading. It is an emergency bill. Let's recognize the bill sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move this bill back to second reader for purpose of a technical amendment.
All right, the senator has moved for the bill to be reconsidered by reconsider the vote by which the bill passed second reading. Any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, the motion is affirmed. We have Senate Bill 88 now before us on second reading, open to amendment. Pages have collected and will distribute the senator's amendment. Once we get on the board, we'll ask the senator to explain it. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the House and Senate cross files did essentially the same things, but there were some small technical differences. The Maryland Municipal League and the State Board of Elections sadly liked the House version a little bit better, so this conforms the Senate bill to the House. I move adoption of the floor amendment.
All right, the senator moves for the adoption of the floor amendment. Any discussion of the amendment? Any objections to the amendment? Yes, recognize the senator from the 37th district.
Yeah, just a quick question. So how does this
Will
change?
the floor leader yield for a question?
Of course.
Senator may proceed.
Sorry, just a little quick out of the gate there. So what does the amendment change? It says lease in the amendment. Does that, was it lease in the, does it say lease in the legislation?
Thank you for the question. And just a reminder, this is an emergency bill that just finally, formally, legally allows our State Board of Elections to support the 147 cities and towns in their elections, and they happen all the time. In terms of, yes, leasing equipment, all of that was already in the Senate version, but some of the verbiage was a little bit different. So this is no meaningful change. It really is a technical amendment. The House just did it a little differently than we did.
And this may be a stretch, Mr. President, because it's kind of towards the amendment and kind of towards the bill. This is a very important bill for my district, very important,
and
very, very important. And in the past, did the municipalities lease? Is this a new cost?
So this is, the municipalities will have the option. They don't have to lease anything. They don't have to borrow anything. They can, whatever they've got, they can do, and with no changes. This just allows them to refer to and defer to the State Board of Elections for training, or for equipment, or for voter rolls. It just makes it the relationship between the two legal and official.
Well, thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for bringing this legislation. It's very helpful.
Excellent. All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 88 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 103, Senator Simonaire, Boating Accidents Reporting Requirement, Property Damage.
Senate Bill 103 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 103, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 164, Senator Kagan, Terminology and Obsolete References, Maryland State Firefighters Association and related terms.
Senate Bill 164 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 164, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 194, Chair, Budget and Taxation Committee, State Finance and Procurement, State Leasing of Real Property.
Senate Bill 194 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 194, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 262, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Election Law, Special Elections. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 262 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 262, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, that does it for our third reading calendars for the day. Let's go to, we've got a layover here. This is calendar number 3. Actually, well, let's call it up and see. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 594, Senator Ellis, Public Health, Use of Opioid Restitution Fund and Training under the Overdose Response Program. Question is in the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable report.
Questions on the one committee amendment? Here, Vice Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I spoke to the chairman. His questions have been answered on this bill.
Great. That's what I was wondering. Perfect. All right. Any further discussion on the committee amendment? Any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 594 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to our special order calendars. We've got number 17 first. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 523, Senator Charles, State Employees Cancer Screening Paid Leave. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
Question is on the adoption of the favorable report. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. In speaking with the bill sponsor, he has decided not, excuse me, to introduce the amendment. So I would just move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right. Question before the body is on the favorable report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 523 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. We are moving along quickly today. Let's go to, maybe not, number 18. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 258, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Natural Resources, Fishing License Stamps, Alteration. Question is the adoption of the favorable report.
All things come to an end. Question is on the favorable report. Check with the minority whip.
I do have an amendment, but I think we need to adopt the report. Yeah.
Okay, question is on the favorable report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. The minority whip has an amendment which the pages will collect and distribute. Once you have it up on the board, we'll ask the senator to explain the amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we're getting to the midway point of the legislative session, or actually just past it, and we are starting, of course, to get a lot of bills out on the floor to debate and discuss. And one of the things that I think can happen to all of us is that as we look at a piece of legislation, we see it in kind of a vacuum. And we look at what's it dealing with, what's the specific program or problem it's dealing with, what are we trying to solve, at least. And that's a good thing overall. But as it relates to things where we're going to be specifically adding cost to working families and retirees, I think we should always take a step back and look at it in sort of the broader picture of what's been happening in our state. And so this bill increases the fee for anglers' licenses, both the annual and the 7 and 3 day, and also trout stamps for residents, and it also increases it for non-residents, and the increases are significant. That goes, in some cases, we're doubling or more than doubling the fee. And now I understand that this fee goes towards dedicated funds to help manage our fisheries and and manage our natural resources as it relates to fishing. And user fees are okay. We do a lot of that in state government and county government as well. It's appropriate for people who are doing something in natural resources to have to pay a fee to help for a license so that we help manage our whether it's wildlife or parks or whatever appropriately. And the rationale for this bill is, of course, well, we haven't raised this fee in quite some time. But it does amount to about a $3 million increase in taxes on people who fish in our state. And I think we have to look at it in the broader sort of tapestry of what's been happening in the last 2+ years. We've had over 300 fees and taxes either be created or rise. A lot of those didn't come through the legislature. They may have been regulatory. Some did. And Marylanders are really facing a very difficult burden as far as cost of living, whether it's energy prices, or whether it's our current level of taxation, and other costs associated with living in our state. And it's been recognized by all of us. I think all of us see it, but sometimes we can miss the moment where this is an opportunity. The argument against my amendment, what my amendment would do, would be to just strike out the increases for residents. Let's just keep residents where they are right now. Well, it does not touch the out-of-state residents, and I did happen to look, and our out-of-state licenses are much lower than our surrounding states, so I understand wanting to raise that. But in this one, I think it would be great to just hold the line right here for now. And I know the argument's going to be, well, it hasn't been done in years and years and years. We could probably get by for a little longer, another year or two, while we figure out some other ways to relieve the cost of living burden on people. So, Mr. President, I would move my amendment and ask for the body's support. Thank you.
All right. The senator has moved the amendment. Let's check with the chair of the committee, floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would say quite some time is a major understatement. As I mentioned yesterday, this amendment will take the fees back to where they were in 1992 and 2007. I think I mentioned this yesterday. The costs of providing the services, the important services for our fisheries, et cetera, have increased to the tune of, during that time, of 159%. In the case of the 1992 fees, again, we're going to take this back, and then 59% for the other fees. The other important point I mentioned yesterday is with this amendment, gentleman is basically rejecting the recommendations of the stakeholder group that consisted of the Sports Fisheries Advisory Commission, the Black Bass Advisory Committee, the Coldwater Fishery Advisory Committee, which was tasked specifically to come up with reasonable fee recommendations, because again, 1992-2007, taking into account inflation, what neighboring jurisdictions are doing, what are average fees around the country, and they came up with these numbers, which this amendment expressly rejects. Thirdly, right now, to keep the current services in place, the revenues, the expenditures exceed the revenues right now. And this amendment will reduce by 75% what's proposed in the fee for these very, very important programs. So, Mr. President, I just will close with saying that I did share this amendment with the DNR, and they said as follows. They wrote me back saying, if this were to occur, this being this amendment, we would not be able to sustain existing programs beyond fiscal year 2027, much less invest in hatchery infrastructure or other very high priority programs like invasive fisheries programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, Mr. President, I would just say that if you do put a green vote up here, you're looking to decimate all these programs, devastate them, and I would strongly encourage the body to resist and put a red vote on the board, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. Any further discussion on, are there any senators who have not yet spoken on the amendment that wish to speak? If not, we'll hear again from the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to make a couple of points of clarification. One is, I don't think those interest groups, who I know are good groups and care about all of this, I'm sure they did not poll the majority of folks who will be buying a fishing license in the state. So sometimes this is what I mean by this little bit of a focus. We get focused in on a bill, and interest groups are going to say they support a bill because they want to help the program, and I believe that. But there's going to be a lot of people stunned and surprised when they have to pay more than double for a license they get every year. Number two, just to the gentleman who's a friend, made a comment. I just want to be clear. I'm not cutting anything back. We're just keeping them where they are. So we heard 1992, 2007. My amendment just simply keeps them where they are now. So they were not raised since 92 and 2007, it sounds like. So I just want to be clear about that. So I'm not cutting anything. We're just keeping it where it is. And again, I think we can last another year or two without this more than 50% increase in fees on our residents. And the bill would still include a pretty significant increase on those who are out of state. So I would move my amendment and ask for a roll call, Mr. President.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizing the senator from Montgomery County.
Yeah, I would just like to explain my red vote is, when I'm looking at the budget of the state of Maryland, Mr. President, a lot of these adjustments that we're making are going to critical areas of our state. So I'm looking at the Eastern Shore and Western Maryland. This is protecting our natural resources. And in order to make sure that they're thriving, we need to make sure that there is funding available. So I'm here to support Eastern Shore and Western Maryland. I'm proud to vote against this amendment.
All right. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? Recognized senator from the 29th District has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So I put a green vote up there, and the reason is pretty simple. The Department of Natural Resources, who I worked for 30 years, runs service centers. And we've been dealing with issues that those service centers are not open to the general public, right? You can't walk into a service center and you can't buy a fishing license, right? You have to make an appointment 2 days in advance before you can go there. And I think that until we get them open for business, right, and servicing all of our constituents, right, and being good stewards of the money that we take in so that they are open and for business in this state, that's why I will keep a green vote up there, and I hope that they do pay attention and get those service centers open for our public.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Recognized senator from the 37th District has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to quickly explain my green vote is supporting this amendment because increasing the fees right now and carrying on what's going on is I can't even say it. Right. Yeah, everybody understands what I'm saying. It's continuing a practice that isn't addressing a problem, and that there's no accountability right now for the recreational harvest. And that recreational harvest is driving the numbers, which has our fisheries management plan askew, and it's a major issue. Ultimately, the end result is it's decimating our commercial industry and our charter boat industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 29 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 258 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to Special Order Calendar number 19. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 264, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Plant Disease Control, Nurseries, Inspection, Certification, and Licensing Fees. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments? Are there any amendments to the bill or to, yes, recognize the minority leader has an amendment.
Yes, Mr. President, have an
Pages
amendment.
will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, sir, may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If you remember in the discussion yesterday, this bill from the Department of Agriculture was going to increase fees for the inspections of nurseries and checking for plant disease control. Within the fees are actually deposited into the Plant Protection Fund, and as again, they would be making annual inspections to make sure that there are no disease or infestation within the nurseries within the state. It was said again that these fees had not been increased since I think it was in 2004. In most cases, the fees are only going to go up $10 an acre. Maximum that can go up is $500. But in asking why this was necessary, the floor leader mentioned that
they were not, MDA was not able to make it to each of the nurseries this year. This would help them with the cost. So it is kind of a special fund. It's the fees created are going directly to a specific purpose. The amendment that I have is essentially just asking the Department of Agriculture to provide a report to the Senate Committee on Education, Energy and the Environment, and to the House Environment and Transportation Committees. And it will specifically talk about the number of current licenses, the number of inspections conducted during the preceding calendar year, divided by county, information on diseases and pests identified, and the number of compliance agreements the department has entered into. I did talk to the Department of Agriculture yesterday. They say they are already compiling all this information, but they are just not reporting to the General Assembly on that. So, you know, again, I just think this is part of accountability. You know, we're looking at a lot of different things this year on what we're spending money on, and I just think it'd be appropriate that if they have this information, we're going to increase the fees, that they just report back to us to assure that they're doing the work that that they're getting paid to do.
All right. On the amendment, let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the minority leader for sharing this with me before, but I think that we need a little bit more time to consider this. I'm going to ask if we could special order this until the appropriate time on Friday.
All right. Question is whether to special order. Any objections to the motion? Without objection, we'll special order the amendment and the bill to the appropriate time on Friday. All right, let's go to special order calendar number 20. Clerk will read the bill.
Bill 42, Senator M. Washington, Environment, Interjurisdictional Watershed, Flood Management. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Senator has an amendment, it appears. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
So while the amendment's being handed out, Mr. President, if I may.
Just give us 1 second to make sure that we get the right one up there, just so we.
Okay.
That's it? All right, quick, Senator may explain the amendment.
So on SB 42, I'm still, as well as Frederick County, are still trying to figure out what exactly we're trying to solve here by putting this into statute. We already have, MDE already has this in the code, and how we are to manage, have the flood hazard watershed areas and the management associated with that. However, this new language, putting it in statute, adds in the terms of headwater, and it adds in Herring Run, including the Herring Run stream in Baltimore City and the Herring Run headwaters in Baltimore County. My question is, my concern is if that's what we were trying to add into the code, why aren't we adding that into the code and doing something in statute to what we're adding potentially an increase that would require, as the county says, and I forward this letter to the bill sponsor, that if they were required to develop a new flood management plan, that they would expect to have to pay $250,000 to $400,000 to have said study completed. While Frederick County understands the importance of the watershed and flood planning efforts, we believe in our current plans and robust stormwater management program meets the needs of our community, including the Carroll Creek watershed. And because of that, the amendment that we have is to just strike out "and Frederick County" in this statute, in this bill. And this is because Frederick County was never contacted about this prior to a hearing. They never had input on this about a hearing. I didn't get a letter from Frederick County until Monday. So local courtesy we should think about some of these bills and how it could have an unintended consequence for a mandated required allocation of funding for a new study. And this amendment is very simple. It just removes "and Frederick County." Doesn't change anything in the code. They're still required to have their watershed flood plan management, which they do. So again, going back to what the bill changes, if they wanted to add in the herring run areas, that would have been easy enough to do, but they've added in headwaters and herring run, and herring run, and then added in Frederick County into statute where it's already in code. It seems completely unnecessary, and for that, I would move the amendment which removes Frederick County from the bill. And if they would, I don't have any other question if they want to yield, but.
Senators, move the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader on the amendment.
And I'd like a roll call on the vote, please.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. So on the amendment, first just a little bit about the just geography. Carroll Creek flows through Frederick City and flows through Frederick County. So removing this, so the amendment, it would be inconsistent with the actual flow of the creek. Secondly, the letter, we have a letter from the Director of Public Works, Frederick City, that says the proposed bill will have no fiscal impact on the city, and I responded that way when we received the request to review the local fiscal impact note. So Mr. President, finally, the third point is that to strike the words Frederick would not only be geographically incorrect, but it would make it inconsistent with existing regulations. So I ask for the body to please resist this amendment. Thank you.
All right. On the amendment, let's hear from senators who have not yet spoken. Senator from Frederick.
Mr. President, would the floor leader rise for a question?
Yes.
Senator, may proceed.
I have a special interest in this. Carroll Creek is in my district, flows through the city of Frederick, and I happen to know the former mayor and former senator from District 3 who developed the original flood management plan. So, doing my due diligence, I've asked a few questions. I'd be in trouble if I didn't.
Absolutely.
So I did call the Director of Sustainability and Environment for the county, and they have been contacted and they had some input on this bill. So if I'm reading the bill correctly, this does not affect Carroll Creek. It just adds another waterway to existing statute.
Yes.
Carroll Creek Linear Park already has a flood control management, which is best practices. So my understanding is this will not affect Frederick. Is that correct?
It will not add any additional expectations of watershed studies, et cetera, to the bill as stated. So that is correct.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's see, are there any senators who have not yet spoken, wish to speak? If not, hear from the maker of the amendment.
I guess if the floor leader would yield for a question, because I need to follow up on that. So I didn't get the copy of the letter that the good senator from Frederick City is discussing from where she reached out to the county. I have no comments from the county except that they don't want this because it could potentially trigger a new assessment that would cost them $250,000 to $400,000. In code, does this bill change anything in code as it is now for them to have a flood management plan?
No, this codifies these 4 watersheds under the existing regulations, and it further clarifies just some definitions as you noted. So it's, yes, so to answer you, Mr. President, it does not add any additional costs. It does not change any or trigger anything other. It is not unusual to codify regulation. If we separated out one portion of, if we struck Frederick County, as I said, it would be geographically incorrect in that the creek flows through the county, and also, more importantly, it would be inconsistent with current regulation. So, thank you.
So, Mr. President, I want to respond to that in that this does have a change. And the reason it has what problem we're trying to solve, because this is already in code, I don't know. However, I can tell you that by DLS's own bill drafters and their fiscal stewards, or the people doing the fiscal note, it says this in bold: this bill may impose a mandate on a unit of local government, being the county government that I represent. If this bill is already handled in code, it's already handled. The stormwater management is already taken care of in code. This bill and removing Frederick County from that changes nothing in code. This is an attempt to put it in statute for the addition of the Herring Run areas with headwaters, which could be added into code. But it is not anything, it doesn't change any of the requirements for Frederick County's flood management system, which we already have, and they have a letter from Frederick County talking about their robust stormwater management system that we have in place in their floodplain management system. So again, I would encourage the body to vote green on this amendment as a local courtesy. This changes nothing as far as what is in code and the responsibility of Frederick County to have a flood management plan in place. The only thing that could happen is that, like many of you, you wouldn't want a mandate potentially inadvertently added and trigger a study which would cost between $250,000 to $400,000 to your local jurisdiction as a mandate. And with that, I would move the vote, or move the amendment, Mr. President.
All right, question remains on the amendment.
And a roll call.
Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 42 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Just in time, we have special order number 21. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 444, Senator Smith, Public Safety Gun Buyback Programs, Destruction of Firearms. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
All right. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Check with the chair of the committee. Has an amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment at the...
Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, Senator, may explain the amendment.
President. So with my colloquy with the senator from District 29, we talked about the requirement for law enforcement agencies to run a background check or a criminal background check, or to check to see if it's a lost or stolen firearm. That's standard practice, but this amendment puts this into statute, puts that practice into statute, and so I thank the senator for his contribution and move for the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 444 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, that does it. Desk is clear. We are through the work for the day. Let's check with committees. Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance will meet at 1 o'clock today for 12 bill hearings, but only 64 witnesses.
All right. Chair of Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Triple E will meet at 1 p.m. 21 bill hearings, 107 witnesses. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Budget and Tax.
We will meet for bill hearings at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet today at 1 p.m. for bill hearings. We have 9 bills on the docket.
All right. Not too bad. Well, you never know. A lot of witnesses. Okay. All right. Let's see. Other standing committees. Select committees. Oh, yes. Baltimore City Delegation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Will the city delegation come off the floor for a voting session in the Silver Room? Be very brief. Thank you.
All right. Baltimore County Delegation? Nope. Jewish Caucus?
Nope.
Rules?
Nope.
Nope.
But thank you, Mr. President. The Pensions Subcommittee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Let's see. Anne Arundel Delegation?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Anne Arundel County delegation was supposed to be meeting in the Silver Room immediately after floor, so maybe we'll have to figure out with the Baltimore City delegation.
You just duke it out, you know.
Yeah,
city-
we'll
no,
do what we can. We'll take a corner. You all take a corner. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yes, Prince George's County delegation?
Yes, Mr. President. Prince George's County will be meeting for delegation hearing at 6 p.m. this evening. If you can get there a little early, I'd like to caucus up before that meeting. So, thank you.
Excellent. Howard County?
Howard County delegation will meet tomorrow immediately after the floor in the Silver Room.
Excellent. Until the Baltimore City delegation takes, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Any further announcements? Yes, Black Caucus?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, tomorrow morning at 9:30 is picture day for the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland. So wear your very best for the pictures on the steps of the Capitol.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, any further announcements or anything for the good of the order? If not, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 43 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Thursday, February 27th at 10 a.m.
Without objection, so ordered. Everybody's running today. Be safe. See you tomorrow.